What is going on? How is everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a good day so far and having a good week so far. The Longhorns made a pretty shocking move today. Texas made a shocking one, I would say, in my opinion. They fired Pete Kwaitowski and you hire Will Muschamp to be your new defensive coordinator at Texas for the 2026 season. This to me was a shocker. I didn't expect them to fire Pete Kwaitowski. I thought Pete did pretty good things for this defense. I thought he was doing a fairly good job. Now, if we look in the market on defensive coordinators, there are a lot of teams looking at defensive coordinators now. Pete Kwiatkowski's probably going to be I'd say the number one mind that comes to name for a lot of these teams. I think teams like USC, I think teams like Penn State, and some other squads will be looking pretty heavily at him because there are some rumors floating around that Penn State might be stealing D'Anton Lynn from USC. There are some rumors that another school might be stealing D'Anton Lynn from USC. Penn State still has a big vacancy. There are a lot of defensive coordinator vacancies there. I think Pete Kwaitowski is a good defensive coordinator, and I think that he's going to get a job somewhere. Now, Will Muschamp. I think Will Muschamp is one of the more elite defensive minds that you could get in college football. You know, he did an amazing job with Georgia as the co-defensive coordinator. Yeah, you could look at the co-defensive coordinator role and say, I don't know how much of an impact he actually had. Obviously, there's some impact, but the question is how much. He's been a good defensive mind throughout his college career. Like, I think that there's no doubt to that. Yes, you could look at his head coaching tenure at Florida and say he was not any good. Some people just aren't built to be a head coach. Some people are built to be a coordinator. It seems like Will Muschamp is built to be a coordinator because everywhere that he's been, he succeeded. Now, he led Georgia to two national championships. Again, I guess you can't qualify him as the actual leader to that because we don't know how much his role it was. Obviously, there's a big role. You got a big role still if you're co-defensive coordinator. You just don't hear about it as much. It's just how much exactly of an impact did that play on this Georgia defense? Because if he played a big impact and we don't know it, Texas, you just got an absolute elite defensive coordinator in your program now. Now, I do want to go over some of those Georgia 2022 numbers. Number one in rushing defense. You know, Will Muschamp is known for his rushing defense. He's also known for tackles for losses. That is big on his philosophy is get tackles for losses, make them lose yards, stop them short of the sticks, and I mean, it's worked. It worked for Georgia. He can recruit. I will say that Will Muschamp will be able to recruit on the defensive side. He's gonna get some big defensive guys. I would say you're gonna get a big beefy defensive line, kind of like what we saw at Georgia that year. I would think. Um. Anyways, back to the stats. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. Number one in rushing defense. This is the 2022 Georgia team under Will Muschamp. Number five in scoring defense. Number nine in total defense. Second in the country in red zone defense. They averaged 14.3 points per game given up, which is incredible. If you look at a whole season, you only average 14.3 points per game. That is elite status, and no one can argue that that Georgia defense wasn't elite. You can go back and look at that Georgia defense; they were absolutely elite, and it you just got a big role increase. How will you handle it? That's my question. Um, 72 yards per game rushing. They averaged 91 tackle for losses that game or that season. I'm sorry. Helped Georgia win back-to-back titles. Like I said, as the co-defensive coordinator, gonna make you be physical. He preaches physical defense, and that's what you saw with that Georgia squad. And I expect to see something pretty similar. Now, I'd love to see how he's gonna recruit in state at Texas. I'd love to see how he's gonna recruit those surrounding areas. He recruited good at Florida. He recruited great at Georgia because you know he had some impact on that Georgia recruiting. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see what he brings to the table at Texas. I think it's an elite move. Some people might be pretty mad that they did fire Kwiatkowski because I don't think he was that bad of a coordinator. Yeah, they kind of you saw some slippage around mid-season. They weren't quite what they were. I still think this Texas defense was good, man. I mean, you held Ohio State to what, 10 or 14 points? I can't remember the exact final score. And I mean, regardless, it was the first game of the season. that Ohio State offense has shown that they were pretty elite this season. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I think if you truly get what I think you'll get out of Will Muschamp, I'd say it's an upgrade. And that's not saying Kwaitowski was a bad coordinator. Not whatsoever. I think he was a good coordinator. If I said he was a bad coordinator, I'd be straight up lying. And I think a lot of Texas fans could agree. I'm sure there are some that are probably going to drop this in the comment section saying, talking about how much they didn't like Pete. But personally, like I said several times, I think he was pretty good. I think Will Muschamp's ceiling is higher. I guess you could say that. I think your ceiling is higher. I expect Texas to heavily attack the transfer portal. I think Will Muschamp is going to have a big say so in that on the defensive side of the ball for obvious reasons because he's the new defensive coordinator. It's already been said that they're looking at like Jaden Ball. I have a video. I just posted a video about Texas going after Jaden Ball, the running back at Florida. You're gonna beef up that offense. Hopefully, Steve Sarkisian goes in the transfer portal and really beefs up the offensive line as well. Because if you can establish a run game, I think Arch Manning is going to take a leap. You know, he started out very rough, started out pretty rough. But think about it. He's a young kid. It was his first year starting in the SEC. First year starting college football in general. And you're doing it in the SEC. You're the number one ranked team going into the season. Everybody has you as a Heisman favorite. You know, all the pressure is on you. You're national championship favorites to open the season. All the pressure is on you. You also open up against what was the number one team in the country for a little while this season until they got beat by Indiana. I mean, he just didn't look comfortable. He didn't look comfortable in the offense. As the season went on, Arch looked a lot better. And what I've noticed in quarterbacks, you look at year one that they've started to year two. They take the biggest jump of their career from year one to year two most of the time. I'm not saying that's a proven fact, but based off of what I've noticed watching football for all these years, that's kind of what I've seen. The biggest jump comes from year one to year two, starting. Not year one, year two in the program, year one to year two starting. And Arch is going to do that. Now, you have Arch Manning. You know he has the best mentors that you could possibly get around you. He has a good offensive minded coach in Steve Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian's still relatively younger, like not younger in age, but like he's newer to head coaching, I would say. You know, I still think he's trying to fully get the swing of it. He's getting it, and I think he's a good coach. I think a lot of Texas fans will also say they don't like Steve Sarkisian. Based off of what I see Texas fans post, I think Steve Sarkisian's still a good coach, and I don't think you've seen the best of him yet. I think the best is yet to come. I still think the future for this Texas program is very bright. But anyways, back to what I was saying about Arch Manning before we head out. You got to get a run game going. If you can get the run game going, you got you got a good quarterback. Arch Manning is a good quarterback. I I'll say it. Arch Manning is a good quarterback. I still have full belief in him. I don't know if we'll ever see the full expectations that were set for him because they set the bar pretty high. They expected him to go in there year one and beat Peyton Manning just because he has the Manning last name. I don't think that was ever going to be the case. I think he's a little bit more raw of a prospect than what we kind of thought. And you could see that. You could see that in his game. His mechanics were a little off. They started to get better towards the end of the season. He started to look more comfortable in the offense. Now, get him behind a good O line because his O line wasn't that good. You got Will Muschamp as your defensive coordinator now. If you really maximize that, you got a good one. You got a good one there. You have good receivers. Get Jaden Ball, get an offensive line. That'll help Arch Manning get going in the passing game because you're not so one dimensional. Last year, they couldn't get a run game going at all. If you're a Texas fan, you kind of know that. You're losing CJ Baxter, but like I said, you're probably getting a very, very, very good running back in the transfer portal. That's what it seems like right now with Jaden Ball. Like I said several times, beef up the offensive line, establish a run game. That's going to help up opening the pass game with Arch Manning. I think you'll see him succeed more. I think you'll see him take that next step. I think you'll see this Texas defense, if we really get what we're hoping out of Will Muschamp, I think you'll see it take a big leap. I wouldn't be shocked if Texas is right back in the mix next year. And I don't know what their schedule looks like for next year. I haven't checked the schedule. I just haven't looked at the schedule yet. I think, I mean, Arch Manning's already shown that he could beat some top teams. Steve Sarkisian's coached very well against some top-ranked teams in the country. I think Texas, they're a real contender again next year. I think this might be even more dangerous than this year. I think this Texas team next year is going to be dangerous, but you got to get what we're hoping for out of Will Muschamp. Got to get what you're hoping for out of Arch Manning. Got to hope you land Jaden Baugh or a good running back and a good offensive line. But anyways, I'm sorry I rambled about the whole next season, but that kind of goes into the Will Muschamp talk, like in terms of what I think this Texas team could be next year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. If you're a Texas fan, I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. I'm very interested in that. I love this Texas Longhorns program, like I've said. I've loved watching them. I love following them. So I'll be dropping a lot of Texas content on here, lots of Texas videos coming. So if you are a Texas fan, I would greatly appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. I don't know why my screen keeps freezing. I'm sorry if you're watching this. I don't know why my screen keeps freezing. But anyways, if you did somehow enjoy this video, even with my screen freezing, I would greatly appreciate if you did drop a subscribe. And like I said, lots of Texas content coming. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.